If you've grown up with pain, if you have grown up with trauma, if you have grown up with anger, if you have been battered and abused, do not go anywhere. This video is for you. This channel is for you. Hello, I am Josh, psychotherapist in training, and I'm here to kind of debunk some traumatic childhood journals for you today. Stay tuned. I've basically pulled a journal offline which I was reading. So it's called Cycles of Abuse: The Mediating Role of Emotional Abuse on the Relationship Between Childhood Adversity and Depressive Symptoms. So this was published in the Journal of Child and Adolescent Trauma in 2025. So it's quite new. It's from this year. What it says is many people don't realize how childhood trauma can shape adult relationships. Now, I'm not 100% sure on who has written this, but it sounds like they have never experienced any form of trauma in their life at all. But I'm going to go through it anyway because it's got some good points in there which I think might be interesting. So the journal explores how what happens to us as children can lead to emotionally abusive relationships as adults and eventually depression. Now, if you already have trauma or if you've been through trauma, I think that's common sense for us. Again, I'm not sure who's written this, but it just doesn't make sense that they're saying, oh well, you know, what happens to us as kids, it's going to make us emotionally abusive in adult. Yeah, we know. I don't know who you're asking this to, but, you know, move along. So they've talked about this thing called an ACE, which is it's an adverse childhood experience. Now, these ACEs are traumatic things that happen to us in our childhood. For example, abuse, neglect, being battered, being bruised. We're talking divorce, shouted at, slapped, banged, shot, money, whatever you're going through. You know, this is trauma. Now, apparently, the funny tea is around 64% of people have at least one ACE, at least one. So people could have 2, 3, 4, 5, but 64% have one. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, people, because at least we know that 64% of people out there have gone through some serious shit in their lives. Now, the more ACEs that you have, the more chance that you will have a mental health issue like anxiety or depression or low self-esteem later in life. Again, I think we already know that if we have suffered from trauma. Let's talk about what the study actually found. Researchers looked at over 1,000 adults. They've picked them out from Australia, they've picked them out from the UK, and they've picked them out from the other country. And they have found that people with more ACEs were more likely to end up in an emotionally abusive relationship as an adult. And apparently, these relationships have increased chance of you getting depression. This is called a cycle of abuse. Now, the way in which this works is you have childhood trauma, it goes into this emotional abuse in adulthood, and then it goes into into depression. Emotional abuse, again, let's just briefly talk about this. So we're talking constant criticism, we're talking gaslighting, isolation, silent treatment, threats, and so on and so forth. It has said here that women are more likely to report emotional abuse, but it can happen to anyone, and I will put my hand up and say that even as kids, yes, emotional abuse can happen to the boys just as much as the girls. Does trauma create this pattern? Now, trauma in childhood apparently changes the way in which we attach to people. I think, again, if you have suffered from trauma, you are going to know that if you lived I make this very quick, if you lived a normal life, then you would be able to attach to people a lot easier. I found that, oh my God, I struggled them first relationships with all the trauma that I had. It was depression all the time. So I'm reading this journal and I'm thinking, it just sounds like my life story, you know? So I'm like, it seems to be that they're talking about things that I think we already know. We could also fear abandonment or believe we're unlovable. Ka-ching. This leads us to choosing partners who repeat what we learned growing up, even if it hurts us. And I think a lot of us out there that have suffered from trauma will go for the bad boys because we have grown up with this. And comment below if you have been in a relationship where they have treated you like absolute trash and you've just gone along with it because in a sense you just feel safe. The study says that emotional abuse is often a bridge between childhood trauma and adult depression. I'm pretty sure it is. I think that they need to have got a different sample size, maybe people that have gone through a bit worse trauma, you know, because I'm not trusting this sample size, and I'm not trusting these people that are writing this. People in this study who had both childhood trauma and emotional trauma as well, one had much higher rates of depression, which I'm pretty sure that that's common sense, and two, one sample showed 44% had signs of major depression. Where are they getting all this from? If you have childhood trauma, you're going to be, unless you have an intervention, you know, you're going to have childhood trauma when you grow up anyway. Yeah. So what this means for you, if this sounds like your life, okay, right. Start again. So if this sounds like you've gone through this or something similar, you're not broken. No, I think anyone that's gone through trauma, you are not broken. This is your life. You have got a path. You are a strong, independent woman. You are responding to what has happened. We are all responding to what happened to us as babies. Your body and your brain are still trying to figure out how to keep you safe. I think we're always in fight and flight mode, you know, and you know, give me a comment again if you are constantly in this fight or flight mode, if you have been in a very traumatic experience. You can also be the person who breaks it even if no one ever broke it for you. Again, it's quite easy saying that, but until you know how to break the cycle, it's really, really, really tough. So if you've learned anything from this, which if you have suffered from trauma, I just don't feel that this is a huge thing, because I feel that we already are all aware of this anyway. Have you ever experienced any sort of abuse? Did you experience anything in your childhood, and how has this affected you? Please do. I'd say give a comment below or give us a message. Let's do another video on another message. Anyway, subscribe for more videos. I'm going to be pulling a piece, quite a few trauma and developmental journals, just to kind of see how people, from what I get, are not experiencing it, are just writing about it. It's just not right. Anyway, for more videos on trauma, on healing, on everything, on just feeling like you're not alone in the world anymore, because apparently 64% of people have gone through it, you hit that comment, you hit that like, you subscribe to me, because you know what, together we're gonna heal and turn into a flower and bloom in the summer and wilt in the winter. Bye bye.